Hello and welcome back to another episode of Heart of the Cast. Thank you all for joining today because we've got a special guest, don't we, Josh? Who do we have here?
We do have Italian Yu-Gi-Oh legend Alberto Conti.
Hello, everybody.
So the Italian European players will probably be familiar with you if they played around about the time of I think would you say your best run was 2017 or all the
No,
way up to
16,
19?
I guess.
2016?
Yeah, from 2016 to 19.
All
That's
right.
like the yeah.
So the topic for today, if you're wondering, who Megalol, why are we bringing in Alberto Conti, a player who quit years ago? What is the point of this? Well, you've actually quit Yu-Gi-Oh, haven't you?
Yeah. I stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh in 2019, so late 2019. Last event was Milan in December, and then I stopped.
So the theme of today is quitting Yu-Gi-Oh, moving on, and why people did that, what made you do that kind of thing. So that's kind of like the whole kind of thing we're going to explore, and then from there we can take apart different things that you bring up, like for example the price of the game, or like the card design, or the extra things like this, and then kind of go from there, and then just see like sort of what you took issue with, and what was like the thing that just made you say enough is enough. But real quick, I suppose, I guess you've given a very, very brief introduction of yourself. Tell us a little bit more about how you started playing, how you got into the competitive game, and I guess some of your notable highlights throughout your tenure as a duelist.
So I started playing actually in 2012. I think my first local event was in 2012. I approached like the local scene with my friends. We played like casual games at home together, and then we saw this event in Bergamo, which is the city I live in. It was like a small event, like 20 players.
You're
So
from
we met.
Bergamo? That's the fake city. That's the fake YCS Milan, isn't it? That's the
Yeah.
Malpensa YCS, the cursed one.
I guess that's the airport. Probably you know it because of the airport.
Yeah.
We don't talk about YCS Milan.
Milan, quote unquote.
Yeah, quote unquote Milan. But yeah, I started in 2012. That was my first ever event. It was like a small local, and then I played a lot with my friends, and we approached the competitive scene. My first ever YCS was in 2013. It was YCS Turin. I think it was in December. But I was still learning how to play the game because I was really bad at the game at the time.
You traveled all the way to a YCS for it, so were you playing
It was
Dragon
like
Wars?
No, I was playing Constellar, I think.
Okay. Was it a good list?
No, it wasn't.
It was Constellars, but did it have Iron Wall and stuff? I think that's how you're supposed to build Constellars in that format, right?
Yeah, it was like a heavy anti-Dragon Ruler deck, so
Okay.
I tried my best at least.
Okay, that's fair.
But I got really into the competitive scene because I got really excited about playing there. I was with my friend Marco Perico, who played with me for a long time.
That's the World Chalice winner for anyone who wants
Yeah,
context.
it's him. So we traveled both together to Turin, and then we really enjoyed the game, and so we kept playing from 2013 all the way to 2019, when I stopped in December. But my peak was probably around 2016. I played a lot back then. It was like the switch from me doing some random events here and there, and then from me attending all the YCSs and all the regionals around my city. And yeah, I just really enjoyed playing the game. And then I tested a lot, played a lot, show up to all the locals I could have gone to, and meet up with my friends all the time I could. So
What was
we
your
played a
first
lot.
top? What was the deck you used?
My first top was also in 2016, was Nationals 2016. I was playing Cosmo with the Fire King Island. I got third at the
Ooh.
Italian National.
The combo version, interesting.
Yeah.
I
And
think a
then I
lot of
took
people
it
ended
all.
up playing like Demise Cosmo, ended up being kind of the best deck, but you played Fire King, interesting.
Yeah, I remember I played a lot the Demise deck. I tested a lot the Demise deck, but it wasn't my deck. I enjoyed the Fire King
Yeah,
build a lot more.
the Fire King Cosmo was very, very fun. I
Yeah.
played that at that year's nationals as well. Yeah, that was really, really fun.
Was
Oh
that
yeah, I
one of
remember.
was that one of your first ever streams, Josh? Because I remember you had like a 2016 period of streaming.
I did like CCG streams back in the day for a while,
Yeah.
yeah. And there's a stream of me playing Fire King Cosmo, I
I
think.
feel
Yeah.
like I have this very like specific memory of Josh with like 100 viewers or whatever was good back in the day, just like playing like Fire King Island and stuff. That was like that's what I
And like
remember
barely
actually.
talking as well. Like
Yeah, on Dev Pro I think it was called, wasn't it?
I don't think it was that. No, I think it was just DB. But
No. You were using an automatic simulator. I remember, not the manual ones.
what is a simulator?
I don't know what that is anyway, to be fair. But anyway,
Okay, cool. Yeah, moving on.
moving on. So yeah, you ended up winning a whole YCS. That's not something everyone
Yeah.
can say, to be a YCS champion. How'd that go?
So it was really fun. It was in Rimini, so still in Italy. It was really, really fun because I was with all my Italian friends, and I was playing Fire King Cosmo for like 3 months there, and I just showed up, and it went really well. So, and then the finals was insane because I played against Typhoon, and game 3 he actually scooped instead of playing the actual game. He just saw his hand and then he scooped. So I think it was really, really fun back there.
Typhoon.
Yeah,
I can't
yeah,
remember that. What the hell? Just scooped a
yeah.
final.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
just skipped the game 3, and I think his end was like terraforming, a lot of terraformings and a lot of field spells. And then when he showed me his hand, I was not understanding, and then he offered me the handshake. I was like, "What, really?"
Here's
It
your
was really
freest
fun.
YCS win in history, I think.
Yeah, I think
Wasn't it like wasn't it like didn't he have a chance as well? Because your hand was also not great. I don't remember exactly.
so. If I remember correctly, we actually played the game with his hand against my hand, because I actually my draw was the Garunix, so my hand wasn't
Yeah.
the best.
Yeah.
So we tried to play the game with my friend, considering his hand and my hand, and I ended up losing the game. So,
Bruh, what the hell? That's
It's
wild
just
that
one of
you
those
played.
moments where you just like scoop the game up because your hand is very bad. You didn't even consider that your opponent may have bricked too or something like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
But if I remember correctly, I think it was like Typhoon first event. So yeah. So
Yeah.
not
I
mad.
don't know exactly what the well, I mean, of course you're not mad about it.
Was he playing
You
your
got a
list,
free
Josh?
trophy. Sorry.
Hmm?
Was he playing your list? Typhoon?
Uh,
You mean mine?
Yeah, I think he was playing your pen deck, wasn't it? Or
I don't know if that was exactly my list or I don't remember. I don't remember giving it to him. I don't think so.
oh, okay.
We
right.
played Pendulum at that YCS too, but I don't think we were on the same list for that one.
Okay, fair. All right, so moving forward a little bit to, I guess like 2019, 18 is kind of where you start sort of fizzling out of the game here. What's going through your mind? What's happening? Like, I guess just walk us through that latter part of the journey.
Well, I remember 2019 probably as my favorite year because I was really deep down into the competitive scene. So I was
Which year,
in
sorry?
the
2019?
2019.
Okay.
The whole year was insane. I played like all the European events. I played way too much Yu-Gi-Oh, and but I was really frustrated a bit from my results. I kept like missing top 32 and top 64, like bubbling out because of like maybe I don't know, like ended up doing like X2, but not enough tiebreaker points to make it into the top 32. So I was
Yeah, I
a bit
remember that period in
frustrated.
time in Europe. We were getting record-breaking YCSs, but we were still doing top 32.
Yeah,
So there was a lot of
It
people missing out in that
and
year,
there were
in that
and
season.
there was this time period where our YCSs were growing, right? But like the benchmark for the top 64 one is the, what is it, 2048 players, right? And we were growing and growing and growing and growing. But once we hit that like consistent 1900 or 2000 players, we didn't get the top 64 cut yet. Not quite. We weren't quite there yet. And that meant it was like incredibly likely to not make top 32 with even 9 and 2.
Yeah.
Which has happened to, I mean, a lot of people during that time frame, and it just felt very, very frustrating.
Yeah, like my worst experience was YCS Ghent. I remember I tested way too much for YCS Ghent. I was really confident. I played Orcust, I think. I showed up to the event really confident. I lost round 1 against a guy, but just because I did a misplay, actually. But then I won all the other matches and ended up doing like 10-1. And then last round of Swiss, I faced Simony, and we were chilling because we thought we were in top 32 anyway. I ended up losing that game. I think I ended up like 10-2 or 9-2 if it was like 11 rounds. I don't really remember right now. And then I bubbled out of top 32, and that moment was like
Next to
super sad. It was like my third time in a row or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was super frustrated. And I remember all my friends coming running to me, telling me, "I'm so sorry, Alberto, you don't deserve this," and stuff. And I remember I got a huge hug from all my friends at the event. It was really, really, I was really happy about that, but I was really upset about the bubbling out stuff. So
Yeah, and I guess it's around this period that do you stop playing completely, or how do you make that jump to where you essentially quit?
well, I remember I was super demotivated from Yu-Gi-Oh after that event, and I think it was London, like a couple of months later, or maybe 1 month later. But I didn't test much. I showed up to the event, played some Orcus list. I think I copied Joshua's list or something like that.
Because we were on the same team at the time, right? We were
we
both
were
on
an
E-Man.
yeah. So I showed up. Didn't test much. I think I had like a terrible run. Not even doing day 2 or something. Yeah, I think it was like a X3 drop or something like that. And later on, I attended the YCS Milan just because it was in Italy, and because I was trying to do all the events for the
Ordeal?
ordeal of the travel. But I didn't even play the main event in Milan. I entered the event, but I just dropped round 1, and then I played some side event. I think I played what's the name of the event? It was
Dying
like
card or
Speed
something?
Duel. No, Speed Duel.
Speed
I
Bro's
played
out
the
here
Speed
speed
Duel
dueling.
side event because when I stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh around that time, I was messing around with Duel Links a lot. I remember, and I don't know. It felt I felt like more or less the same. So I tried it. It was really bad, so wouldn't recommend it, to be honest. But I remember I played a lot of Duel Links when I stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh because I missed the feeling of playing or like thinking about something. To be honest,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely understand that it can be very frustrating when, like, especially in Europe where we have like 4 YCSs a year normally, and it's like you lose one of those 4 chances a year to do well at an event because you go X2, and which normally should be a topping record most of the time, right? Most events you make it with X2, and then for that to happen multiple times in the same year for events that you
Yeah.
work for really hard, I can definitely see why that would be very, very frustrating. But what I find very interesting, or what I would like to hear about, is because I know that you haven't quit competitive card games for good, right? You are currently participating, competing, and doing fairly well, from what I'm hearing, in a different card game, right? And so,
Yeah.
like, maybe you want to tell us a little bit about, like, was that your motivation from the get-go? Like, did you plan to stop playing competitive card games, but then just found something else, or did you want to specifically stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh to play a different card game? Because now you're playing the Pokemon trading card game.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell us a little bit about how that went.
Well, when I stopped in late 2019, I thought I was dedicating some time to like my life, so all the things outside of TCGs, basically, like work, life, and developing my private life, basically. And then, like, I remember the pandemic hits, and then when the whole pandemic thing went out, when the whole pandemic thing was stopped, I showed up to my local store, and I thought about going back to Yu-Gi-Oh, but just for fun, just to do something, because I was really tired of staying at home doing nothing. So I wanted to meet some new players and do something like in the weekend and stuff. But I didn't felt that great in the local scene. I don't know. Everything changed so much after the pandemic to me. So
Do you think it was the game that changed, or do you think you as a person evolved and you just have different priorities? Or
maybe myself, but also like when I showed up like 2 years later, basically, like the whole community was almost different. There were not the same person that I left. There were like so many new players, and I don't know. I didn't feel myself inside that in this community. So I decided to just don't do anything for probably like few months, and then one of my friends showed up with some starter deck from Pokemon and was like, okay, let's do this for fun. And of course it was not for fun, because I tried the game, I enjoyed the game, and it was like, okay, when is the first event that we can attend? And then everything
That's
started
where the
to get
competitive card gamer immediately
yeah.
comes back, right? Yeah, no, I feel that, yeah, for
I
sure.
was like, yeah, I wanted to compete, I wanted to do more, I don't want to play at my home, and yeah. So
Yeah,
did
but
you
I just wanted to, yeah. Okay.
did you play
No?
any Yu-Gi-Oh at all at this point, like post-pandemic, like any of the format? Like, did you keep up and watch it at all, or did you maybe one of your friends just had like 2 decks and then you just tried it out, or?
no, I remember there was like this rock archetype, probably during the pandemic. I
Oh
don't know.
no. Okay. Oh, that's okay. Now we know why he didn't come back, Nadir. Explain that.
And I remember Zodiacs were back or something like that. And I was like, okay, I have all my Zodiac cards at home. I was like, let's build my deck. Let's go to the locals, but no, it was not really good.
Did you
And
see
the feeling,
Adamancipator in action at all? Is that
yeah,
what?
that one, the block dragon or something.
Yep, yep,
Yeah,
yep.
this one.
Okay. Yeah. And they come back one locals and they never return.
Yeah.
Weird.
That deck
But,
made you quit the game. Holy crap. Oh.
yeah.
Did you see it in action? Did you ever like play with it or play against it? Like even just once?
No, I was at locals, and I saw like these two players playing the same deck, the same rock deck. I was like, what
Oh
is
my
going
god,
on?
a mirror match. Yeah, no wonder you quit.
That story checks out. Absolutely. No, you see you go back to locals after not playing for 2 years. You see a Adamancipator mirror match. No, you pick up those Pokemon starters real quick.
I'm such a hater, dude. Holy crap. Okay, so I guess like to kind of underpin this, I'm curious, like, so it doesn't sound like to me that you quit the game because you didn't like the game. It just felt like it sounds like your priority shifted maybe.
Yeah,
And then just happened to like, because it was like it sounded like it's more of a social aspect, right? And then the social aspect
true.
Pokemon was giving it to you rather than you having a particular issue with the game, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm
Probably,
curious if the
yeah.
game has any influence at all. Like, do you think maybe if the format was lower, or if there was certain playstyles or mechanics that were popular, if that is something that would have attracted you more?
No, probably like if I went to the local and I saw like my old Yu-Gi-Oh friends, that probably would have changed things back
Mm.
then. But yeah, as I told you, everything was different. New people. I couldn't understand like all the cards they were playing, and like stopping for I think it was not 2 years, probably just 1 year and a half or something like that. I don't really remember. but there were so many new cards, and I understood that staying away from Yu-Gi-Oh for like 1 year is way too much to just pick up and go back as nothing ever happened.
Mm.
Um,
Okay. Yeah.
you
Yeah, I mean,
know,
it's always going to be a lot of work, right? And to me, it sounds like you thought about getting back in, but then you didn't feel like it was worth putting in all that work, right? Like you
yeah,
weren't motivated enough. Because I do know you as a very kind of like social person, right? And so like to me, it sounds like those were the main reasons. You know, if a couple of your friends that you liked to really play with and travel with, they don't play anymore either, right? And that like of course, you can go to locals and meet a lot of new players, maybe, or make new friends, but you were missing that kind of old
yeah.
feeling that you couldn't really get, which I find very interesting because most of the time when I hear people complaining or telling me reasons why they quit the game, it has a lot of other things that they mention, right? Which is stuff that you didn't even mention at all. They were like, "Oh, the game isn't as it used to be, or it's way too expensive, or those kind of things," right? Which is not you didn't even mention these kind of things. Um,
Um,
so yeah, I was wondering if that maybe played a factor of why you quit at all, or if that was just never an issue.
I think that was actually never an issue. I was a bit tired of the system, but not the game. I still really enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh, to be honest. I think like
Hmm.
the game itself,
What do you
I
mean by
don't know,
system? Sorry.
like tournaments, like the X2 and bubbling out of top 32 things, stuff
Mm.
like that. And
Just for comparison,
um,
how does it work in Pokemon? I have no idea how that game works. Just for context.
you don't get we basically have like a YCS level events once per month, and in Europe, and you get to play only top 8. So
Is
you
it
don't
like
have
way more
the
rounds of Swiss basically to balance out,
yeah, it's
or
15 round of Swiss.
okay? What's the attendance usually like?
Around
15? Jesus.
1K now.
Okay.
Yeah, more or less. From like 800 to 1K. Yeah, well, it's now growing a lot in the past few months. So
I mean,
it's
they also have the issue of they are sharing the venue with all the other games
yeah,
too, right? You have the video game and so on, so they are always capped at these numbers,
yeah.
right?
Oh yeah. I
Yeah,
was
and
gonna
that's why
ask because
it's like
you said it's growing, but I thought Pokemon just that was an issue that they had was like they would put tickets up and they would sell out in like a minute.
Yeah, even less, like 10 seconds.
Wow.
yeah, that's which is
Um.
crazy.
So what's your
Yeah.
thoughts on that Swiss system? Would you like it if Yu-Gi-Oh had more rounds of Swiss and smaller top cut,
Mm,
or like what's
I
that like
probably
for you?
to be honest, I think that's great. Like playing like 15 rounds of Swiss and then only cutting from top 8 on. That's like it's more or less the same, because like if you lose like let's say round 14, it's like losing basically top 16 in Yu-Gi-Oh. It's more or less the same,
Mhm.
but you get a better reward if you actually go like XO in Swiss or like undefeated in Swiss and stuff like that. Because let's say you go undefeated on
I-
Swiss and then you break in top 64 or top
Mhm.
32, that's super cringe, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Other than that, the total number of rounds is actually the same. For 15 rounds of Swiss top 8, that's 18 rounds total. For a 12
Yeah,
round YCS with top 64, that's also 18
yeah,
up until the finals. But I guess you have that thing where if you have a really good Swiss record, you can still lose in top 64 is a real thing. But one other difference that I think exists in Pokemon, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm only watching it as like an outsider
hmm,
sometimes. You know, I follow Pokemon coverage sometimes, and the entire world system, right, is I think something that keeps players motivated throughout the year. Even when
yeah,
because I know that even if you don't top a regional, right, like if you make day 2 or top 32, top 64, even like top 128. I don't know exactly what the cutoff is. You collect those points, right? I believe they're called championship points for Pokemon.
yeah.
And those, you collect those. And then if you have a certain number, you qualify for Worlds, right? And so, like, you can go to a tour tournament. Maybe you lose the last round on the bubble to make top 8. And you don't quite make it, but you still get very
A lot of
valuable points
yeah.
for your overall like goal, right?
Yeah, that's true. So you're more motivated into playing, not for winning, but just to be consistent. And most of the
Hmm.
time, when you're testing for events, you have to understand what's your goal. For example, right now for me, I don't want to show up to tournaments to win. I just want to show up to do good and take some points to achieve
Mhm.
my stipend for like my uh, paid trip to Hawaii for the awards.
Mhm.
Yeah, you just have to understand what's your goal, and you have like different approaches to the game because of this.
Mhm.
Where in Yu-Gi-Oh, I think you have to show up just to get top 32 and just basically to win, and
Yeah.
that was what it was for me. Um, and I remember it was really tough grinding for the words invite in Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
Even the year I think like in 2017, yeah, in the words of 2017, I won a YCS, and I think I made top 32 or top 16 at Euros, and it wasn't even around. No, I think like Euros were not counting for the playoff. No, they weren't. No, but I remember I did a lot and still not even competing for like the
Mhm.
playoff of
Yeah.
the Worlds Invite. That's crazy, I think.
Mm.
I
Yeah,
think
that's
Where
what I
world
meant.
system was developed in 2018, I think, right? The point system.
2017
Yeah,
2017 was the
2017
first
was it?
year we
Yeah,
had the
yeah.
points. Before that, it was even more like hit or miss, right? Which is that's in general a thing that you said that's very true. Yu-Gi-Oh events are a lot more hit or miss than Pokemon, because
Yeah.
a lot of them, you don't follow throughout a season of Yu-Gi-Oh, you don't really follow a greater goal, right? Of course, I mean, there's a couple people out there that are grinding for these world's points, right, to get into the top 16 playoffs. But it's a lot less personal for your own personal self, right? Because for
Mm,
Pokemon, you just have to reach a set number of points, right? And
yeah.
it's like you can work towards that goal. You're not competing with anyone, because the spots at Worlds, I don't think they're limited. You just have everyone who gets the points qualifies. Um, so you can like go to an event and you maybe you don't win it, or maybe you don't even top, but you still take something away from it, right?
Yeah. And that's great if you think about it, because you just have in mind a bigger goal, which is not the
Hmm.
event itself, but it's like the whole season. So you play for the whole season. So even if you start really bad, you don't drop because you want to keep going, and you want to just try to be end up with a decent score to get some points in the bag.
Yeah.
I think on the topic of events, you didn't really mention anything about prize support, and I think it's obviously quite easy thing to say the Yu-Gi-Oh prize support is bad.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, while you were playing Yu-Gi-Oh, was that something that ever crossed your mind, or was that something you just
um
didn't care about, or?
to be honest, I didn't really care about when I played Yu-Gi-Oh. It was never an issue.
It was about the love of
Uh,
the game, I think, for most people, right? Who like just want to do well, right? Because I
yeah,
don't think
you just
that's
want to
ever
do
a
well
draw.
because you love the game. You just want to do great for yourself. You want to show to yourself that you're good at something, and be quote unquote the king of games. But yeah, I think like grinding for yourself, I think that was more than enough for me. I guess the prize
Mhm.
support was never an issue, I guess.
We don't have to sugarcoat it. The price support in Yu-Gi-Oh is not good. But
Whoa.
still, I've never encountered like a competitive player who really actively complains about that. Like most of the
Yeah,
time, it'd be nice to have, but I feel like if that's your motivation to play the game, that's like you're
good
starting
luck.
in the wrong place, anyways. I feel like
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
Did you have any personal thoughts or ideas on what you would have liked, what you would like to see, or what is involved in Pokemon, at least that you like about it, other than I guess like the point system that you already mentioned?
Um, Probably like having more events is fun. Of
Hmm.
course, I guess. And now my friends told me that there are not YCSs in Europe anymore or
We
something.
don't talk about European YCSs, okay? We haven't briefed you beforehand before the podcast. One thing we should have told you is we do not talk about the situation of the European YCS circuit. Delete the VOD.
But yeah, the one thing I'd like to see in Yu-Gi-Oh was like, yeah, of course, more events. That's like the crazy fun part about Pokemon. Of course, you
Is it
have
really once a month for you guys?
it's basically once a month.
In
Yeah,
Europe?
it's like yeah, in Europe.
Wow.
We
How?
I don't know. But like like if in the US, I think it's like even more sometimes. They have like 2 per month sometimes.
So out of if there's like 12 events a year, for how many of those do you realistically get a ticket?
All of those.
In 10 seconds?
How do you do it? Do you have
I,
like a system set up? Like, do you have like some kind
no,
of
I
browser
play
extension?
tested the ticket system. I play tested.
Okay. What's the
Oh,
how do
God.
you
True
play it?
though.
Like,
That's true.
what's that? What is it actually like? Like, do you have you optimized like the browser or something, or like genuinely, I'm curious. Like, what do you do in that situation?
It's
It's
like
just
a
a
web.
speed run, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's a speed run. But I do it on my cell phone, and I'm
Okay.
used like I'm so used to do it that I have like my finger remembers like the movements of like flagging the right
You
the
got the
right
muscle
ticket.
memory.
So it's
Yeah.
like
Dude, any percent. What's your personal best on the
but
registration glitchless to Pokemon event
Glitchless.
speedrun?
I think it was like like 3 seconds or something like that.
Holy crap.
But no, but now they're more like doable. The thing was like 1 year ago when the community was growing a lot and we had like 500 spots for like 1,000 players who wanted to attend the
Yeah,
event, and that
yeah.
was crazy. But
I
then
remember
they
that because I wanted to play the Pokemon TCG thing in Germany. We met each other there, but I was
yeah,
playing the VGC one because I couldn't get a ticket for the TCG. I don't know.
yeah, I
I wanted to
remember.
play the TCG, but I couldn't, so I just got the video game one instead.
Yeah, I remember.
As someone who's played, I think I want to say I've played 2 games of Murkrow in Pokemon. So I
Okay.
don't have any sort of understanding of the game. I just know it's like a whole bunch of solitaire, attack, pass.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the gameplay, what are the differences for you? The positives and negatives as someone who has played at the highest level in both.
Well, positive things probably like this. I do my own, you do your own, and then we play the game by our own, like a solitaire.
Well, then what did you
Because
have an issue with Adamantipator mirrors? That sounds great. Like, you know, you
But
like
that's
a little
like
bit of solitaire. Like,
that's a real solitaire. Like the thing about Pokemon is that, of course, I play my solitaire and then you play your solitaire, but we actually get to play the game until the end.
right.
Where in Yu-Gi-Oh, from what I remember, unless you played something like Sky Striker, it basically ends like in few turns, and you don't get to grind out the game. You don't you don't grind out resources and stuff. Just play your turn and that's it.
What do you think was? You're probably a little bit biased because naturally people like the format they did well in. But when you played Yu-Gi-Oh, like, what would you say was like good Yu-Gi-Oh? Like, what were some of like the better matchups or mirrors or formats?
Probably the Sky Striker format. I
Toss.
yeah, I really
The 2019
enjoyed.
one?
I think it was a bit before, probably 2018.
Bro, what do you mean? That was
Um,
Goki.
Surely after Goki.
yeah, after Goki, it was like
Yeah.
I remember
Okay.
when the wind type Sky Striker came out.
Hayate,
What
right.
Hayate?
Yeah.
I
I
think
mean, that's basically toss. I'm pretty sure. That's Orcust, Striker, Salamangreat, Thunder Dragon.
before, yeah, no, before Thunder Dragon.
Oh, before Thunder Dragon.
I
Okay.
think there was one format where we have full power Sky Striker, but we had no Thunder
Mhm.
Dragons. I think it was YCS Gen. No, YCS
No, Gent
Utrecht.
had Thunder
Utrecht.
Dragon.
Utrecht. Utrecht. The
Oh, but that still had Goki.
But no, Goki was really bad.
Maybe.
No, I'm
Wait,
sure. I only played one Goki.
No, no,
It
no.
was
I
it
know
was
what you mean.
fine.
I know what you mean. You mean the 200th one.
Yeah,
The one that Nico won with Sky Striker.
yeah. I
I'm
really
pretty sure
enjoyed the
people
format.
were still playing Goki, but it must have been weaker because it wasn't as popular and dominant as before. So I don't know
don't think
exactly
it
what
was
they
worse
changed.
in Europe as well, remember?
No, chat, it's not Goss format. It's not Goki, Orchid, Striker, and Salad. I don't know exactly.
Wasn't
No,
there like a period where I think like Europe didn't have like Linkreebo or Summon Sork, right? And that made the deck worse? Is that maybe it?
At that point, we must have had Summon Sork though, because that's after Danger FTK already.
Right, okay.
if I
But
remember correctly, I remember I actually side deck for Goki in that event because I played like almost no hand traps in the main deck, and like basically like more than half of my side deck was hand traps because of Goki.
Hmm.
But I remember Goki was not a good deck, or at least it was not popular for some reason. But I don't really remember the reason.
I'm pretty sure it's just before Soul Fusion comes out, maybe
Yeah.
just before Thunder Dragon gets Colossus and stuff, maybe.
Hmm.
Or maybe Thunder Dragon just came out and people didn't realize that it was a real deck yet. I don't know exactly, but I don't think at YCS Utrecht I played against many Thunder Dragons,
No,
if
I,
any.
no, I think Thunder Dragons was not released yet in Utrecht.
Okay, yeah. But that format is good. That format was good. I remember that. Yeah.
Okay, that's like, it's interesting because you've played since 2012, but you still liked a lot of the modern game despite that, which is interesting. I'm curious,
yeah.
like, as the transition period happens around about 2014, 15, I think, with the like Duelist Alliance format, for example, or Dragon Rulers. Probably Duelist Alliance format would be a good place to milestone it. Like, what did you think of like that jump in power level? Like, do you think the gameplay was good or?
I think the game was fine. I didn't really felt the jump in the power level, to be honest, since I was playing and I was really enjoying the game, even with all the lack of probably well thoughts around combo decks and stuff. But I really enjoyed the game. I didn't really felt any jump or any
It
power
didn't feel
creep.
like a spike to you. It just sort of was like a gradual
No.
climb.
I will say it does feel like that too, because at around the time, if you've always been playing, it's a much more natural kind of curve
Yeah.
than when you look back at it now and you're like, damn, 10 years ago we did this and that was good. It's more like it's like if you're inside cold water and it gets heated very slowly, right? You don't notice it
Yeah.
as much as if you just jump into really hot water right away. I think that's a good comparison because it just feels more natural when it takes 10 years of actual time passing, rather than now you look back at what was exactly meta 10 years ago and you're like,
Yeah,
that's
that's true.
crazy that compared to today. um but
Emancipator is boiling
yeah,
water, I suppose.
Emancipator is absolutely boiling freaking water. Yes.
What was your thoughts on Pendulum and the release of, or the transition to Master 03, I guess it was?
I remember Pendulums at the beginning wasn't the best.
No, it was
Before
terrible, but
Clifford.
I think
Yeah,
it would be Clifford into like the full Pepe deck and Breaker of Shadows
yeah.
2015.
I remember the full Pepe experience when I was testing for, I think it was YCS
Prague.
Prague. Yeah, Prague. I remember we tested this against full power Pepe before the emergency ban list, and it was like insanely good. And
Mm.
I was really scared. I, I don't know. I was not enjoying the game much.
No,
I mean,
full power Pepe
it was
was,
really unfair.
yeah,
It was really
yeah.
unfair.
No,
But I was happy
that
about
is
the
a boiling
emergency.
water moment as well for anyone
But
who's
yeah, but
been,
they gave us the emergency ban list, so it
yeah.
was fine, I guess. It was still really good after that, but
Hmm.
it was fine.
Yeah.
And
And what
we
did you
also have
think about
more, yeah.
link summoning?
I think it's a great mechanic, to be honest.
Really?
Honestly, I think it was really fun. At least, I don't know. There were
I also
some
don't have an issue
mistakes.
with link summoning as much as like it's like one of those things that people like to complain about a lot, but
Yeah,
I think it's more an issue of individual card design sometimes
yeah,
than the actual mechanic. I don't have an inherent issue with the ability to turn certain bodies into tools from the extra
something
deck.
else. Yeah,
But it is definitely one of the more it's very generic and that makes it very easy to abuse, and you have to design cards very carefully, and if you have a look
yeah,
at the Forbidden and Limited list, you see that they haven't been doing a great job at that. Because there's like I'm pretty sure Link is by far the one that has the most banned extra deck monsters, right? Like by far.
yeah.
Because it's just, you can theoretically design way too powerful cards for any extra deck mechanic. It's just that for Links, apparently it's easier to mess something up because
They're easy
any
to.
deck has bodies on the board at some point.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I don't know. I kind of disagree. I think it's a bad mechanic because you're naturally creating an environment for broken things to happen, right? Like you're
That's a fair thing to say. Yeah,
yeah.
that's
But
that basically, yeah. That's
if you
fair.
think like you can do the same with synchros, if you think about it. There was one moment where like there was like these synchro shenanigans that you could do. It's more or less the same if you think about it. It's just that you don't require the tuner or something, but more or
That's
less,
how I've always described it, as like link summoning is synchro summoning, but there's very little like level
yeah,
requirements, not as
requirement. Yeah,
strict, and there's no tuner requirement.
Yeah.
It's
I,
yeah.
I think what we're getting at is that the link mechanic, I don't think it's per se terrible, but it is true that it creates this environment that is very, very dangerous, where if you're not super careful, because this is so generic and so easy to do and any deck can do it, if the card that you design for a certain intent is good in any sort of context, then it's going to be used in that context, right? It's not like you create a synchro for a certain deck, and it would theoretically be good in a different deck. That deck can't use it because it requires a tuner, for example, and they don't have one. That's easy to play. If there's a link monster that would be theoretically really good in a certain deck, you can play it in that deck unless they make it very, very strict on how to summon it, right? And that's why
yeah,
like there's like so many archetype specific link monsters that they have made too generic by accident, that have been played in every single deck in the game except for the one that it's made for. Like you look at like Halka Fibrax,
true.
Aurora Dawn is like, yeah, great Crystron support, great Mecha Phantom Beast support. Never been played in those decks.
Appreciate you trying to water it down for me, Josh, but no, I think link summoning was a mistake. That's my hill. That's my nuclear take. I think I'm not a
Okay,
fan.
sure.
But I wanted to circle back a little bit to your comparison. So you mentioned that one of the better things of Pokemon is that, you know, you get to play out like what
Yeah.
feels like a whole match. And what would you say are some of the things that, I guess, like that's like more like a positive for Pokemon? What
Yeah.
would you say were some positives for Yu-Gi-Oh that it has over Pokemon, or vice versa?
Do you mean about the gameplay or like
The actual
the
gameplay,
whole
yeah.
the actual gameplay? That's a tough question. Uh, probably like the side deck. Side decking is something I really enjoyed
Oh yeah,
when I
yeah.
played Yu-Gi-Oh, because it gives you room to, you know, room and space for you to do something in your deck. You have to plan your side in, side outs. You have to know. You have to cover a lot of matchups with the side deck, so it's really fun and it's really challenging also to build the deck correctly, and optimizing spots for um, covering as many matchups you could. Where in Pokemon you don't get to use the side deck, so you actually have to quote unquote main deck stuff, even though there are some dead cards that you have to play because you have to deal with some matchups, and that's something I don't really enjoy. And
That's
also,
something I found really annoying when I played
yeah,
Pokemon, and it's like there's like decks in the game where you need certain answers to certain threats, otherwise the matchup is just terrible. But then whenever I'm playing against a deck where those cards don't do anything, they actively just sit in your
yeah,
deck for all the games, and it's just always bad. Very
yeah, that's
frustrating.
probably the worst issue of the game itself. And another thing that I don't really like, but I'm not sure if Yu-Gi-Oh is still like that. One thing I don't really like about Pokemon right now is that there's a lot of decks in the format that are actually really good and you have to respect.
Mm.
Back then in Yu-Gi-Oh, it was like more or less 5, 6 deck at a time that you have to actually play test against.
Oh, you're
Or
gonna get hate for that. You just criticize deck diversity.
I mean,
That people are not gonna
No, he's
receive
saying
that
like
I
well.
mean,
5 or 6 is fine. Like that's a good number. Like, you know.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I
but
agree. I agree personally. It's just that whenever you criticize, I feel like diversity in Yu-Gi-Oh, like deck diversity, people go like, "Oh, just prepare better, skill issue. The
no,
game
but
is at its best when 30 decks are viable." But I get what you're saying. I agree.
yeah, but if you prepare a lot for like those
Yeah.
5 matchups and you like know inside out what to do when you're going first, what to do when you're going second, what to side in, what to side out, and
Mhm.
stuff like that, you're
Yeah.
really, really optimizing everything for the tournament. And
We've
if you
had
have
formats in the past year or two that were not like that. Where, like, for
okay,
example, last year's German nationals, I played in Swiss. I played against only one deck 2 times. Everything else was once.
well,
So we definitely had those moments in Yu-Gi-Oh as well recently.
My favorite event of Yu-Gi-Oh was the European Championship of Zodiacs in 2017. I played one True Draco, and the rest of the Swiss for me was just mirror match of Zodiacs. It was my favorite event of all time.
See, but that's some
Oh, you really
people's
liked it. Okay.
nightmare.
I was really
Hmm.
attached for the mirror match, and I just really enjoyed playing a lot of mirror matches. But it's really fun if you think about it. And when I tell
Interesting.
this to my Pokemon friends, when I say that I played like 8 or 9 probably mirror matches in a row, they freaked out because yeah, it's insane.
Does Pokemon have a lot of diversity, like naturally?
Yeah, for example, like in the past few formats, you have to consider like 8 to 12 decks at the time, which is a lot. And like even bad decks are not that bad, so you kind of have to know what they're doing and how to play around them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's not there's
Quick
not
of an
like
issue. Oh, yeah.
there's not like a real gap between good decks and bad decks. They're kind of like, of course, there are better decks and worse decks, but there's no real gap in the middle. So you actually have to know what they're doing and know how to play around them.
It's kind of
How
similar
big
to
of
the
an issue is?
situation in Yu-Gi-Oh right now, where for the last like 3 years or so, basically pretty much every deck printed after like Master 04 is has some kind of like decent game plan and stuff like that. And they're not like bad decks; they're just like a little bit worse than all the other things. There's like probably like I want to say 8 new decks designed recently that kind of fall into that category. And like it was most outrageous, quote unquote, before the release of Phantom Nightmare with Snake Eye, where we had like literally like 10 plus decks. Which, you know, for better or for worse. I think it's interesting that Pokemon has like a very similar situation. And I don't know if it's like, is it a rotation based problem or what is it?
I don't know what the problem where the problem came from, but I just think that there are no like good archetypes and bad archetypes in the game. I mean,
Hmm.
of course, there are some trash cards, but if you see an archetype, it's still doing something, even if it's not winning events or some stuff like that. You can see it pop it off sometimes. Um, I don't think rotation affect this. Probably,
Interesting.
I don't know. Like if I think about the game being eternal or something like that, that will probably be like the same situation as Yu-Gi-Oh, where there's like insane good decks and then everything else. Probably, yeah, probably it's rotation the issue. I don't know.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, did you want to jump in?
Yeah. How much of an issue would you say is like the whole weakness system? Because that's something that I would always, from the outside perspective, it seems really frustrating to play a deck where some matchups just seem very hard because there is weakness.
Um, Honestly, it was never an issue for me. I think I never actually experienced this issue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because if your deck has a great weakness in the format, it has to play around it somehow,
Mm-hmm.
or your deck is really bad. Let's say like the
Okay.
best deck in the format is let's say Psychic type or something like that, and your
Yep.
deck is weak to Psychic. There's no way you're gonna play the deck, so you don't even
But
consider the.
like, if the best deck in the game is a psychic deck, right? Isn't that also weak to something?
It is weak to something, but it's probably the best deck because, like, let's say Dark type is not good in the format at the moment.
Okay, but what if you still run into a dark type deck? Wouldn't that have an edge over you?
Maybe, but depends on how consistent the deck is. Maybe it's not
Mm-hmm.
consistent enough for you uh to not
Okay.
win the game. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So is it
if
literally like a
it's
rock, paper, scissors system where your water deck will just lose to fire? Or no, the other way around. Your fire deck will lose to water.
not really. I think also right in the format right now there's like some mix typing decks. For example, the most notable one, it's based around like small guys that doesn't really matter if they have a weakness because they get one shot anyway, and the big
Mm-hmm.
guys have different weakness on their own. Or there's some good archetypes that has no weakness because Dragon type in the game has no weakness. And
Mm.
yeah,
Okay.
and I played a lot of dragon types in the in the past, so I can enjoy it and didn't really felt the
Okay.
weakness issue. So
Yeah.
Do you have to do like a lot of like multiplicative maths like there and then? Like if my thing is like weak to your thing, but there's also like resistances, like do you have to like start considering damage and then multiplying it by 0.5 and stuff like that? Or is resistance a thing in the card game? I don't actually know.
it is a thing, but it's really rare. Only few types has resistance, and it's like minus 30, so it doesn't really affect the math of the game in a big
But you
way.
have to do math.
Yeah, but it's like really
Sometimes.
simple.
But it's like it's
really
harder than
simple.
Yu-Gi-Oh! It's not just like basic arithmetic, right? It's like you actually have
No,
to like
it's
do you have to do like division and stuff?
no, it's like no, it's
Dude,
all,
division would be crazy. What are you talking about? I
Dude.
would never do division.
Division with without a calculator would send me, dude. I'm just saying.
no, it's like let's say I'm doing 100 damage, and then your Pokemon has like a minus 30 resistance, so you only get 70. That's really easy.
Oh, it actually just tells you the number. I thought resistance
Yeah.
was like.
No, resistance
it-
is minus 30.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was like
And-
like 50%.
No,
right?
no.
No.
It's just minus
In
30.
the video games, it is that. That's why you'd probably
Ah.
think that.
Okay,
And
that's why this
weakness
seemed a
works
lot
that
harder
way.
for me.
No, weakness works that way because it is just times 2. So weakness is technically a lot more useful than having a resistance.
Yeah.
But resistance is just minus 30 flat.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so I mean, I feel like this is gonna be a little bit shorter because I thought you would maybe have a little bit more to say about like the differences in the game, but to me, it really does sound like ultimately the biggest kind of thing for you was the social aspect, right? Like, and I think like if those people that you had, really close relationships with like don't play that game anymore, then it's gonna be feel tough, right? Because I went through this exact same thing in 2018. A lot of like my closest friends that I really enjoyed playing Yu-Gi-Oh with just stopped playing when Link Summoning was released. And maybe that's where a lot of my bias towards Link Summoning comes from, is like maybe it
Your
isn't
trauma.
actually that bad. Like maybe it's because all my friends abandoned me when Link Summoning was released, I suppose, right? So I think that's kind of the interesting the difference for you, is that it feels like, yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh was primarily a social outlet, and when that was gone, you never really seemed to have a reason to keep playing.
Yeah. Probably that, and as I said before, the system. Yeah, the all the competitive system.
Yeah, speaking of the social aspect, because you said you went back into locals for Yu-Gi-Oh and you didn't feel like you were part of the community. How was that different when you started playing Pokemon? Right? Because in theory, you also didn't know people that played it beforehand, right? You just went into it from zero as well.
Probably the difference was that when I showed up playing Pokemon at my local, the community was just at the beginning, so it was like 5 players there. And
Okay.
so I kind of built the community with the people that were there at the time. So we actually built the community together, so it felt more cooler than, it felt more cool than going into a already built community after being out for some time.
So
But
Pokemon was just like
yeah.
a dead game, and you just like went there and built the community from scratch rather than entering an existing one.
Yeah, especially here in Bergamo, there were not many players, so I just showed up and we built the community together. But now we are growing a lot, and there are a lot of players, especially here in Bergamo.
That's cool.
Also, one thing I want to say that I don't really like about Pokemon, and I really enjoyed about Yu-Gi-Oh, is content creation. There's no deck profiles in Pokemon, which is something I really hate.
Yeah, I realized that at some point too. Yeah,
It's something I really hate. I just really enjoyed watching deck profiles in Yu-Gi-Oh, and I think it's something that's not really popular also in MTG and also in other card games.
Yeah, it's
Where
weird.
do you get like information from in Pokemon? Is there like a database somewhere, or?
There's a database that is called the Limitless. You see all the lists that do well at events, but also like Twitter. If you do well in an event, you just post your list on Twitter, and then people just comment down if they have any question, but you don't explain anything.
I mean, maybe it's a niche. You can start doing it. Maybe you'll be the biggest Pokemon TCG creator soon, because no one has ever thought of showing their deck in a video. It's crazy technology.
Explaining it. Yeah.
But the issue is that there's not much that you can say about your deck because you don't have to
Well, okay, maybe
explain.
that's the reason then.
It is, but like if you think about like Sky Striker back in like 2017, there was not much that you could talk about. It's just this is good. You have to play this three. You have to play this. This is good. This is
Mhm.
good.
Yeah.
And but it was really entertaining anyway. I don't know how to say about that, but it was really entertaining because you had something to watch when events were over, and you see like your friend, your like I don't know the pros that do well, and you just see them, and you get to know them, and maybe and I also one time wrote on Twitter something about this because I think deck profiles are good because you just show to other people how your building process went, because maybe they see like your standard list with maybe a one-offs and they think, okay, that's random, but maybe you have like an insane explanation about the one-offs you're playing. It's not random, it's there for a reason. But also like you just show up like maybe a sponsorship you have with something, and then you know you just show up so many stuff, and you reach way too many players. Because like if you think about yourself being a new player coming to the game, you just search on Google or YouTube or anything. When I started playing Pokemon, I was looking at YouTube and Googled information about the game. Why is this that good? I was trying to understand. I was not using Twitter at the time, and it was really hard to get information and explanation of why cards were playing in that way and why lists were played in that way.
Mhm.
And I don't know, it feels like when you approach to Yu-Gi-Oh and you just Google something, you have an insane amount of contents that shows you, for example, why Salamangreat was good, why Sky Striker was good, and stuff like that. But if you do
This
the
is
same in
very funny. This is very funny to me because we just had that discussion or that debate like I don't know, a month or two ago of like people complaining how that wasn't the case in Yu-Gi-Oh, how our information quality wasn't as good, right?
really?
They compared it to Magic. And now it's funny because you're like the the coughing baby with Pokemon. You're like, "Oh, we're even worse than Yu-Gi-Oh."
Yeah, I mean, we have articles in Pokemon that you have to pay and buy to have like a deep explanation of like theory and stuff.
Mhm.
And I
Pay
think
for
that
articles? That's interesting. Okay.
yeah, people pay for it's just like coaching more or less if you think about it. You just get
Yep.
a wall text of information that are really important for you to understand how to play a deck. For example, I was playing this deck and I was messing around with myself at the beginning, and then I saw this free article online explaining like super deep into the matchups and stuff. And when I played the deck after reading uh, the the article, I was really confident with the deck, and I knew how to handle all the matchups and playing at the perfection, basically.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't know. Sounds like there's a big niche in the content creation system that you could go into there with these ideas that you have.
I mean, I could, but I don't know. It takes a lot of time and also skills. It's not easy to like, for example, speak in front of a camera. It's not easy to, build like cut videos and stuff. It's not easy. It's something that takes a lot of
Mhm.
time. So
VGC
Yeah,
is
our
just
jobs are
way
very,
more.
very hard.
I think the VGC is just so much more watchable, I guess, and popular when it comes to YouTube, right?
yeah. Also, oh yeah, one other thing I really miss about Yu-Gi-Oh is watching Yu-Gi-Oh games because they're fun. Like if you see your friend playing on stream and they drop
Mhm.
like Ash or like Called by the Grave or something like that, you just scream because it's really fun. I don't know, it felt really fun, and entertaining. And
Yeah, I
if you
don't think there's
see
any
a
like hype
Pokemon
moments like that
match,
in
it's
Pokemon, is
not
there?
really the best until something crazy happens.
What I remember from Pokemon matches most of the time is they only have very, very few hype moments, especially towards the end, right? Like whether you can
Yeah,
like because it's like because both players are basically playing solitaire, but it's about who's finishing faster, right?
yeah,
And it's like, so when you're in this crucial turn and you're like, okay, can I finish this game this turn if I draw this specific card or whatever? Or like I need a combination of cards to finish it this turn. Otherwise, my opponent is probably going to finish next turn, and so on. Those are kind of hype moments in stream, but everything before that is just kind of like build up and like
yeah.
a lot of
Boring.
like stuff happens that is just expected, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I think that's also an issue like for commentators and stuff, because it's really not easy to get people entertained by a game of Pokemon. I think that's an issue. I mean, it's true. Like playing the game itself, it's really fun, but watching a game can be boring. Yeah. Most of the time, when I look at like stream matches and stuff like that, because I want to understand a matchup or stuff like that, I just watch it like double the speed on YouTube, for example, because it's really boring if you just do it. Because you have to price check, you have to take a lot of time to understand what you're doing and what you have in your price deck, in your price cards, and stuff like that. So,
Dude, I'm gonna be honest. It
guess
just
that-
sounds like you're a closeted Yu-Gi-Oh player.
I mean,
it
I
does
was
actually
born. I
sound
was
like,
born
yeah.
with Yu-Gi-Oh, so of course I have to defend my little baby. But
Yeah,
I
you miss
really,
it. Admit it. You miss it.
I do miss Yu-Gi-Oh sometimes.
I'm surprised there isn't like any crossover, right? Because when you go to locals, like there's just people sitting there, right? Like playing their games and stuff like that. You never like walk over and check out the deck or see what people are doing. No.
I remember this summer there were like the local event at my local, and I remember like everybody was complaining about a gimmick puppet card. I don't know, like something that doesn't let you special summon.
Look, you're walking in on us in very bad moments, Alberto, is what I need to tell you.
But
You're just coming in, you're just opening the door without knocking in the exact wrong moment, dude.
Yeah.
Like, let us
And
close the tabs first.
the other
Sitting there with like the pants
Knock
down,
the
like
door.
hold on. I promise you this game is good.
the other time I showed up to a Yu-Gi-Oh local, because when I was there for some reason, and I watched like some games. There was like this deck that basically blocks your zone.
No, come on, Alberto. Come on, you gotta knock before you come into my room, man.
But that felt really fun. That felt really fun. And
God.
the best memory I have playing Pokemon, I was at locals playing Pokemon, and on the other room of our local there were the local Yu-Gi-Oh tournament, and at one point it was like, I don't know, 7 p.m. The ban list just dropped out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And we were playing like local, our Pokemon local, and everybody on the other room started screaming.
Dude.
It's so funny because there's nothing like that in Pokemon, right? Like I don't think
No.
you just like you get like random ban lists dropping whatever,
No.
right? Like
No,
how does it
no.
work in Pokemon? Does it rotate or like do they just post it on the website and they say, "Hey, we're gonna make
No.
changes"?
No, we have a standard rotation every year.
So
Which
there's
is
no ban
happening
list
right
in
now.
Pokemon other than the
No.
rotation?
No.
What if there's like a really problematic deck? Like you just live with it?
Well, if there's a really problematic deck, what they do, they print counter to the deck. For example, there was this deck really popular in Pokemon that basically Fusion Strike Mew. It was really annoying and people hate it, and they just print an almost auto win card against it. But long story short, it was not enough, so the deck was still good even after that. So
Yeah,
But
okay,
yeah.
Snake Eye's the best deck. Next set. Alright, here you go. We're just gonna reprint like Kashtira without hits or something. I don't know. That's pretty funny. Like I guess Pokemon's solution to game design is just outprint it or something. Or just wait for it to go away, I suppose.
I just can't get over the fact that you walked in on Yu-Gi-Oh players 3 times and it was Block Dragon, Full Power Kashtira, and Gimmick Puppet Lock. We're never getting
But-
Alberto back. Guys.
No, but
It's over.
maybe I showed up to some other times. I don't really remember because I was not really shocked by the game, so I can't remember what was going on. Oh, but wait. One time,
Oh God.
I
Another
played
bad
I
story.
played a game of Yu-Gi-Oh in like 1 month ago or something like that. There was like this Viking structure deck that came out, and they told me, "Oh my God, yeah, you won a YCS with Viking, Alan. You have to play Viking again."
Here
So
it is.
I just played one game at local, so I didn't understand anything really. They told me what to do. I was just
pure
playing
Fire Kings.
It was another archetype with Vikings. I don't remember the other archetype was.
Snake Eye?
I don't know.
Rescue Ace. Diabell Star.
I don't remember.
Damn.
I think it
And
was
what was your
like a level
experience?
1. It was a level 1 that searches for all level 1s or something
Yes.
like
Okay.
that. Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
What was your experience with it? How'd you find it? Like,
I don't know. I played a mirror match and I won.
what?
I didn't understand anything. Honestly, I just went first. I didn't understand anything.
This is not a good representation of Yu-Gi-Oh right now. I just want to say, like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes that quote comes back to me when I hear things like this, and it's like, you know what? Yu-Gi-Oh is a bad game that sometimes is good, rather than it's a good game that's sometimes bad. Because if you're just walking in with your pants down and it's just constantly like, here's a 5-zone lock, here's an Emancipator, here's, you know, it's like, maybe there's like a problem here.
No, I honestly really enjoyed Yu-Gi-Oh. I think it's a great game.
Was there anything that would make you come back? I guess other than your friends, like, do you want to play more Snake Eye Mirrors? Like, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know if like the thing is, I was like since I was a kid, I was a really big fan of both Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh. So I always had this like contrast in my life. Also, when like let's say when I was like a primary school, when I was a kid, and your parents have to buy you something, maybe for your birthday or something, that you have to choose between Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon. Maybe you want a new structure deck, I don't know, or maybe you want a video game of Pokemon. You have to choose between one of the two. Now when I'm a grown man, I can buy both, but I don't have the time to actually play both. So
Yeah.
I think I have to choose. And to be honest, like Pokemon is just more of like an adult game. And I don't want to say it's like in a negative way, but it's like takes a lot less to play. Where in Yu-Gi-Oh you have to focus a lot and play a lot. Where
Would
in
you say it's
Pokemon,
easier?
the rules are easier, but the games are
I mean,
harder.
I know it still has depth. I'm not trying to say. I don't want you to say that the game is not easy. I know
No,
that. But like, if you direct comparison between the two.
yeah, like the thing is like being so approaching Yu-Gi-Oh, it seems a lot harder. But yeah, once you know the rule, it's a lot easier. I would say. Um, Kind of the same goes to Pokemon, where like the opposite goes to Pokemon, where if you know the rules, it seems easy, but then you play out and you see how hard it is to actually like manage resources and stuff. Um, you know, price counting, price mapping and stuff.
Yeah.
So I would say they're both hard in a different way. There's not like a harder game. But if you have to compare rules, of course, Yu-Gi-Oh is way harder. There are way more mechanics than there are in
I guess
Pokemon.
the question is it harder or is it just more complex because there's more stuff that you need to understand, right?
I think it's more complex. But
Yeah.
also, like,
Yeah.
if I go back to myself in like 2019, like preparing for events, I remember I was like thinking about Yu-Gi-Oh like whole day long and trying to find out the best spot for my side deck, building the best side deck, finding the best ways to be consistent and have all the option I wanted to have. So yeah, it took a lot more to play Yu-Gi-Oh, to be honest. Like a lot of time outside of you playing the game itself, uh, because you have to prepare a lot more, in my opinion.
Oh, so you think it's harder to keep up with Yu-Gi-Oh than it is to keep up with Pokemon, and that's
It
why it's
is.
easier,
It is.
especially like next to you, like adult life things, right?
Yeah. When you have a job and you have to do stuff outside of the game, and you have to dedicate time to the game, it takes a lot more to stay in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh.
Is that because it changes less, or what?
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh, it's really changing a lot. Like even like a special edition with you know any other new card can change the format, or not the format, but adds something to the game. Where in Pokemon, the format, like, we get to play many events with the same format. Doesn't really
Okay.
change much. It just evolves, but there's no like new cards and stuff.
That's interesting because that's like that doesn't even have anything to do with the game itself. It's just release schedule slash system slash managing issue once again, right?
Yeah.
I think when you have that
Interesting.
many events going on, like, there's just more room to like try new
Or
things and
that,
stuff like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Whereas in Yu-Gi-Oh, I feel like what happens is, okay, right, this is your one shot, you know,
Yeah.
don't blow it. You don't have another event for another 3 or 4 months, so people naturally
Yeah.
just go with the safer picks and stuff like
Yeah,
that,
that's
right?
true.
So I don't know,
That's
maybe
true. That's
people
true.
experiment more in Pokemon. One thing I noticed about Pokemon, like I don't know, people say like it's easy. Like the rules are easy, but
Yeah.
like I sat down and I played, and I'm just sitting there with like 7 cards in hand. Like this thing, like I can activate this card that searches like these other cards. My Pokeball can get me these Pokemon. It's like I feel like it's actually quite difficult unless you actually know what your deck's strategy is, right? Like it's
Yeah.
it felt like almost like playing Yu-Gi-Oh to some extent. Like you just have like a full hand of cards. You draw so much. It's just like you're doing like a crazy combo like every turn. It
Yeah.
feels like.
Yeah, one other thing I remember about Yu-Gi-Oh being quote unquote easy was like the card advantage. I think yeah, that was the right word, right? Card advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Like if you have like one negation, the opponent has 1 card or 2 cards. Yeah, you know what to do.
Mm.
Cutting down the opponent to less option. I think that
Mm.
was a bit easier. But now in Pokemon, you have the opponent to actually out of nowhere draw 7.
Oh, you mean
And
like simplified game states are
yeah,
like not very.
simplified game state. Yeah,
That's
that
the one
thing.
you went. Okay, 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 okay. Yeah.
I couldn't remember the word. Yeah,
Hmm.
I think that was once you reach that phase in Yu-Gi-Oh, I think it was like more or less resolved, and the game was more or less almost over. Where in Pokemon,
Hmm.
there's no real end game like that. You have 7 cards even when you're losing. You have 7 cards even when the opponent is losing. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, card advantage doesn't matter as much. It's a lot more
yeah.
about other stuff. Yeah, okay, I see that.
Was there any other areas or topics you wanted to cover before we wrap this up a little?
Mm,
I think we
no, I
talked
think
about
that's
gameplay, prize support, and I think like social aspect as well is really important. But I think
yeah,
that's something that naturally ties in well with every card gamer. I think
yeah,
that's
Yeah.
something that isn't unique to Yu-Gi-Oh. Which is I suppose kind of cool about the hobbies is that you're always there for your friends and you're at locals
yeah.
to see your friends and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
One thing I want to share it's that when I started playing Pokemon, I was kind of hiding the fact that I came from Yu-Gi-Oh.
You're being bullied.
Is that
No,
ashamed?
but like no, there's like this whole cheater thing in Pokemon.
Oh,
There's
okay.
like
Is there like a
yeah,
stigma for cheating Yu-Gi-Oh
everybody think that
players?
everybody from Pokemon thinks that Yu-Gi-Oh players are cheater. So
Why?
I
What's the
I don't
reason for
know.
that?
There's
Okay,
no real
I have a
reason.
question. Is this an Italy
Yeah,
problem or is this a Yu-Gi-Oh problem?
I think no, I think it's like a mm, probably like a worldwide problem. I guess I don't know, but everybody.
Really?
That's really funny.
Um, Probably
I've heard this
not.
before,
Probably it's
even in
just in
like the
Italy.
US and stuff. Like people do have this stigma towards Yu-Gi-Oh players, which is interesting. I don't know where it comes from.
But yeah, I remember at the first time I was kind of hiding the fact that it came from Yu-Gi-Oh, but then I didn't care. So it's just yeah, I don't know.
Hmm.
It doesn't really matter to
I
me.
mean, that just like yeah,
Just
that'd be dumb. Like
yeah,
if
I guess cheaters are in any card game, so
This
doesn't
guy
matter
used to
where you
play
come from.
Fire King, keep an eye on him.
oh, don't let him play a deck with chickens.
That chicken, it's always on the bottom of the deck. How?
I drew the chicken way too many times in Rimini, but it was fine even drawing the chicken. The deck was still good anyway.
All right.
All right. This
Shall we wrap
was
it up?
very, very interesting. Yeah, we can wrap up. We can wrap up.
Okay.
This was very insightful. Thank you for letting us
Thank
into
you.
your
Thank you.
thought process about being a competitive Yu-Gi-Oh player, very successful, and then making your way over to a different game. It's always very interesting to me because I only see those games from the outside because I don't have the time to fully dip in. But that was
Yeah.
cool.
Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone for tuning in. I promise you the Patreon Discord is coming soon, any day now. But yeah, follow.
If you just stop mentioning it every week, I think people will stop asking and they won't wonder where it is. You know.
It's coming soon. So yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. I'll leave Alberto's socials for any Pokemon competitive enjoyers. You find him on the Twitters. So there
Yeah,
is
Twitter.
that as well. We'll be tuned in next week. The next episode you watch will actually be a discussion on the extra deck. So that's something we're going to be doing live on the stream at some point. So make sure you follow us as well on the social medias. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Peace out. See you
Bye.
on the next episode.
Bye bye.